Welcome to a review of percent math. Let's start with the very best place to start when learning something new or reviewing something that's been forgotten, and that is with what we already know. Remember that the human brain learns best when it is connecting new information to old information. Now, you may not be a master of percent math at this point, but I bet that I could create a word problem, a percent word problem, that you could easily solve. So here it is. Let's say that I tell you that I have 20 students enrolled in my adult literacy class, and that 50% of the enrolled students were present yesterday. And the question is, how many students were present yesterday? I would be willing to bet that everyone listening to this video could tell me that there were 10 students present yesterday. So how'd you get the 10? Well, turns out that 50% is such a common percent that most of us know that 50% also means 1/2. So if we take 1/2 of 20, we get 10. All right, so we know that 50%, common percent, is equal to 1/2. Here's my next question for you. What is a percent? What is a percent? Well, just looking at starting with what we already know, that 50% is equal to 1/2, well, at least we could say for 50%, at least this particular percent, that it's a fraction, because 1/2 is a fraction, right? Well, it turns out that all percents are fractions. And the biggest, most important idea in percent math starts with this, that a percent is a fraction. If you don't already have this ingrained in your mathematical soul, I want you to make a copy of this page, hole punch it, put it in your binder in your percent section, and don't put anything else on this page, just this message. A percent is a fraction. And I will be asking you, when I see you next, I will ask you, what is a percent? And you can answer that question in 2 words. A fraction. A percent is a fraction. Okay, so make sure you have this note. Next question is, what kind of fraction? What kind of a fraction is a percent? So percents are what kinds of fractions? Well, it turns out that percents are a special kind of fraction, and they are a fraction that always has 100 in the denominator. A percent is a fraction that always has 100 in the denominator. Okay, well, you might be thinking right now to yourself, well, wait a minute, if 50% is equal to 1/2, and 1/2 doesn't have 100 in the bottom. Well, you're right, but we get 1/2 from 50% this way. 50% means a fraction that has the number that's sitting in front of the percent sign, this 50, in the numerator, and 100 in the denominator, always 100 in the denominator. 50% reduces to 1/2, but 50%, if we write out 50% as a fraction, we get 50 on the top and 100 on the bottom. So what's 20%? Okay, well, what's sitting in front of the percent sign? A 20. That's the numerator. What did we put on the bottom of the fraction? Always 100. So 20% is the fraction 20 over 100. And we could go on and on in this. Let's do one more. 1% is what fraction? Well, what's sitting in front of the percent sign? The numerator. 1, we put that on top, and we put 100 on the bottom, always. So whenever you're looking at a percent number, you're looking at a fraction. It may not look like a fraction, but that's what it is. A percent is a fraction. The number in front of the percent sign is the numerator of the fraction, and the denominator is always 100. So I think this is one of the reasons why people sometimes have difficulty with percent math, is that when we write out percents and we use the percent symbol, what we're looking at doesn't look like a fraction. And so our brains don't think about it as a fraction. But our brains need to think about percents as fractions. So you need to start training your brain to do that. Whenever you're looking at a number that has a percent sign after it, you are looking at a fraction. And percents always have 100 in the denominator. So I'm going to give you a little set of exercises to do out of the percent booklet. You're not going to start at the beginning of the booklet. You're going to start on page 8. And this page is titled Changing a Percent to a Fraction. Well, this is an easy move. A lot of percent math is really quite easy. On rows 1 through 3, you have a whole list of percent numbers. And your job is to rewrite each percent as a fraction. Well, there's our friend 50%. So for 50%, you would write 50 over 100. Now, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you are expected to reduce all of the fractions that you create from your percent numbers. So you are expected, if possible, to reduce the fractions that you write, so that you'll find that in the answer key, you will not find the answer 50 over 100. You will find the reduced fraction 1/2. The next fraction, the next percent number is 20%. So you write that as 20 over 100, and then reduce. So we can cancel these 0 pairs, and 2/5 reduces to 1/5. So 1/5 will be the answer in the answer key, not 20 over 100. So you get a little bit of fraction reducing practice on this page. Now, you'll notice that I have crossed out the 3% at the end, the percents at the ends of each one of these rows. Please ignore them. You can go ahead and do number 4, but please ignore B when you see 33 1/3%. We will come back to those particular percents. So go ahead and do this page, and I will stop the video here.